This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming Gillian Gordon. Gillian started out as an actress. She was in such exploitation classics as The Sister-in-Law, the underrated horror classic, The Boogey Man, she was also a line producer in. And then she has become a very prolific producer. She has just regularly produced things like Cheech Chong's Get Out of My Room, the Showtime documentary, and I guess the music videos as well. I'm going to find out about the music videos as well. And she also produced music videos for Madonna, Tom Petty, Eurythmics. She produced the documentary Bond Girls Are Forever. She worked as an executive at Paramount for many years. And she's done all these great things. She has a podcast called Binge or Bomb, which I listen to. It's pretty interesting. You should check it out. It's available on Apple, Spotify, all the platforms. And it's going to be a great conversation. I cannot wait. And today is National Nude Day. So all I have to say about that is be naked, be free, do other things if you want. Just be kind. That's all I got to say is just be kind. Also, is the strike over yet? No, it's still going on. Man, come on, guys. Why can't we be friends? Resolve this shit. Life is too short. So yeah, here is my interview with Gillian Gordon. Hey Gillian, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hi, how are you?
I am fantastic. This is such a great honor. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Great.
So, going back in time, did you gravitate toward acting in film early on in your childhood?
Didn't everybody?
Yeah.
We didn't know any better. It's that sort of that incredible moment of being the sugar, being the sugar plum, being the sugar plum, whatever, and then discovering the power of the stage, So everybody, of course, wants to be an actor. I was lucky because I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey, where they had an incredibly good repertory company. So, yeah, I started when I was about 12 or 13, sort of, playing small parts and working in the costume department.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah, that's pre-internet. I mean, that's all you had, back then.
Well.
Do you remember the first movie you ever saw, or the one that impacted you?
Well, I think that it was Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it was. It was absolutely terrifying because I was quite young. And it was completely terrifying, and still is, as far as I'm concerned. I think those monkeys completely. My grandson, who's 5, loves the Wizard of Oz and loves the monkeys and thinks it's hysterical that I think they're scary. So
that movie holds up. I mean, it's going to terrify.
It sure does.
It has terrified generations and will always continue to do so.
So you're in LA, are you?
No, I'm in Modesto.
Modesto. I don't even know where that is. Where's that?
It's just about an hour and a half away from the Bay Area.
Oh, nice. Lovely.
That's where I'm from. I'm from San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
What are your favorite movies of all time?
My favorite movies of all time are La Dolce Vita.
Yeah.
Well, almost everything by, Nights of Cabiria, too, also is one of my favorites. Le Mépris, Breathless, Le Mépris, Godard. I'm really kind of a 60s girl, really. I love all that Nouvelle Vague, so pretty much anything by the Duval. And then I, and I love More recent stuff, like Pavel Polakowski. I love Ida. I thought that was one of my favorite films the last few years. I love screwball comedies. I mean, I could endlessly watch screwball comedies, and some of my favorite. The Awful Truth is probably my favorite of screwball comedies. A Ball of Fire, also. I think the tragedy of the moment is that American cinema is really not very interesting, and so we have to go, outside our borders to see great film.
Oh yeah, sounds like you gravitate toward the European art films more than the American.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I can't think of anything in the last few years that I've seen in America that I was, just thought was absolutely fantastic. That's why, who cares about the Academy Awards anymore? It just is boring.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I mean, this is all this talk about the strike, and of course today the actors went out on strike, and
yeah,
the streamers. On the one hand, I suppose people feel that they've supported artists, on the other hand, feel bereft. Actually,
yeah.
I mean, look at summer, and I'm right now. I'm in England, and normally I kind of just go to the movies. Especially it's a rainy day in London.
Yeah.
And I would just go to the movies. I can't find anything to watch.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. I'm waiting for Oppenheimer. Excited about Oppenheimer.
Oh yeah, in the last decade, I have gone to a few movies than I did in my life before then, because I went to the movies all the time throughout my childhood and life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No. So I don't know. I mean, television is pretty good, and I do an awful lot of watching television. I have a podcast called Binge or Bomb.
I took a listen to it. I like it.
Did you have? Did you? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. It's still very rough, and as you know, well, you've probably done now quite a lot of episodes. You're just finding your way, aren't you? Because it's a format that still is, kind of in its infancy, and so it's fun. It's fun to do, and it gives me the excuse of staying up all night long watching streaming television.
Yeah, it's a constant evolution. It really is, but it's the greatest medium that's been invented. So I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
So after high school is when you attended New York University?
Yeah. So I went to NYU Film School, which was this really cool new idea.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, it was, and I think people, when I went, because I'd gone to this school called Princeton Day School in Princeton, and everybody went to like Harvard, Smith, and all that kind of thing. And when I said I was going to go to film school, I think they all thought, "Oh dear, poor thing. It's a sort of technical college, And of course, it was the coolest thing you could do in the whole world was to go to NYU Film School that time. Martin Scorsese was teaching. Haig Mnuchin ran the department. It was the best. It was really, really, really fun. So it was so much fun. I dropped out after sophomore year. And just hit the road and went to live in Mexico for a while, and then finally did finish. But NYU was just a hotbed. Of course, there was student revolution, and ending the war in Vietnam, and it was great time.
Yeah, what'd you do in New Mexico?
Well, in Mexico, actually, I lived in San Cristóbal las Casas in Chiapas, and I took photographs, and I worked. I'd always had done a lot of photography in my career, and there was this amazing woman named Gertrude Blum there, who I got a little small grant from New York Council of the Arts to archive her work. And she had been a commie during the war in Europe, and had to flee because she was on sort of Hitler's hit list, and she moved to Mexico. She started recording all the Zapatistas, the women who'd fought with Zapata, and during the revolution, and then also went down into the Selva La Condona, which is the largest jungle outside the Amazon, rainforest, and recorded these incredible tribe of Mayans who had not actually been touched by the Spanish invasion.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, in essence, were still worshiping in the Mayan temples and the ruins. And so she took all these amazing photographs of them. And also around San Cristobal, where there are many, many really interesting villages with indigenous culture. Fascinating place.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds like it was interesting. When you were at NYU, did you have any classmates that we would know?
Yeah, you do, but of course, unfortunately, you get to be my age, you forget everything. I mean, so I think I was listening to one of your podcasts with, and of course there was this sort of Corman exodus, and there was like a tunnel between NYU and Washington Square and Corman's studio. So a lot of people went that. So Oliver Stone, who was I was at NYU with, and he was older because he'd been to Vietnam, obviously.
Yeah.
So he and then Jonathan Kaplan, and
Yeah.
A whole bunch of other people whose names I've forgotten, and they all went out to LA to sort of make it, and everybody did quite well. Of course, they were all men, by the way, I might add, because Corman didn't seem to hire any women. I did try and get in there, but I failed.
Yeah, but you were a pioneer, though. You were one of the few women there.
Well, I wasn't. I was one of the few women at NYU, and I was one of the only women on a film set. When I was working initially in the industry, there were makeup artists and costume designers, and then like one lonely woman on the set. There was certainly, nobody in any of the technical areas, and certainly nobody in management, production. And I was, I mean, there were people in development. Obviously, women were working in development, and that, was one way of getting in, or working as an agent is another way that people got in.
Yeah. So the first movie, at least on your IMDb, is The Sister-in-Law.
Oh my God, that's terrifying revelation. Yeah, I guess maybe it was no. I think I did another one before that, actually, or a couple more before that, but. So when we were at NYU, we all worked as film slaves. We'd be production assistants on low budget films, and I worked on a whole bunch of them while I was in school. And then maybe The Sister-in-Law was one of the few ones that I worked on as a professional outside, which was quite an insane experience. John Savage, though, was pretty fabulous. He was in it.
Yeah.
And he's still, I think he's still around. Wonderful actor.
Very talented, very underrated. Yeah.
Yeah, very. He had a terrible motorcycle accident, and he sort of lost his memory, apparently, and that kind of ruined his career, I think. But he was amazing. So he was in that. And I think the director, whose name
Joe Rubin,
went on to have a good career in the industry. I didn't stay in touch with him.
He's directed some of my favorite movies: The Pom Pom Girls, Joyride, Gorp, Dreamscape, The Stepfather. And it's hard to believe he's the same guy who made Sleeping with the Enemy, because you look at all these exploitation movies with nudity that he did in the 70s, and now here he is doing a feminist movie that has made millions at the box office.
Yeah, good for him. Yeah, no, I obviously did not stay in touch. It was one of those insane things, and it was like there was no money, and everybody was completely out of their minds, and nobody was sleeping, or everybody was sleeping with everybody else. Yeah. That kind of project, I completely had forgotten about it. I can't believe you even tried. Oh, I know, because there was also I had a tiny part in it because the actress didn't turn up or something. Mm-hmm. And, my years of studying with Lee Strasberg had to pay off. So I played the kind of a real tough guy's girlfriend, and I was like 19, 20 years old or whatever. So that image turns up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't mind because I look quite good, but it's kind of slightly bizarre, I think.
You looked very good, It was, you were in the prime of your youth at the time.
Exactly. Yeah, but it was also, that's the other thing is like, I mean, I when you have done a bit of acting and suddenly you're on location in the middle of nowhere, and I did that horrible horror film too, where, the actress, I think, collapsed, and then you have to step in, dye your hair, do whatever, and that's what you do. I mean, that's what we all did because the thing is that there was that sort of East Coast low budget film culture that was, like the Ed Pressmans of the world, where they started. And it was a great place for young filmmakers to get their first professional experience.
Absolutely. I know so many people. I mean, Dean Cundy, he was the cinematographer on Halloween, and now he's one of the top, cinematographers in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, the Boogey Man, I actually like that movie a lot, because I
You did? The Ulli Lommel, the one that I did?
Yeah, because I love low-budget slasher films. What was that? What was that experience like, and how did you get together to work with Ulli Lommel?
Well, Ulli Lommel had been this, hot ticket. Sadly, he's dead. But he had been a child star in Germany, and then Fassbinder had sort of taken him under his wing, and he worked with Fassbinder. I think he was like an AD for Fassbinder. And then when he said, I want to make a film, so he made a film, which I've, of course, forgotten the title of. And what was it called? Quickly look it up. Mm-hmm. And it was Fassbinder effectively directed it with him, but Ulli got the credit, and it was really good. And so he had this little kind of following in the film community in America. So he came over and he hooked up with Andy Warhol and all these people, and then he made this film called Cocaine Cowboys, which was really fun. And he met my friend, my best childhood friend, Suki Love, who was an actress, and she stars in Boogey Man. And her brother is in Boogey Man, and her mother is in Boogey Man, and they shot it on her uncle's estate in Maryland. So that was the sort of thing. So I had grown up in Princeton with the Love family, who were a crazy, wonderful family. And Ulli really struck it rich by marrying into this family, because they had a bit of dough, and they basically pretty much funded the film, except when we ran out of money at one point, and the actor who was the lead, who was also a traitor, I think it was at night, and he would he never slept, and by the end of the film he looked like he was going to die. I was sent, he had some friends in New York who had a bit of money so we could finish the film, and I was sent up to New York literally with a paper bag to meet these guys to put the money in the paper bag and then go back to Maryland, where we were then going to finish the film. I mean, it was completely mad.
Wow.
Really.
Yeah. I like the way you look in the movie. You got that 50s style, kind of housewife look to you, with the hair and everything. And,
well, that was because that was the actress who had, so and I had to dye my hair black because, of course, I was playing Suki's mother in a flashback.
Yeah.
And with my boyfriend, who sort of vaguely my boyfriend at the time, who plays the guy, the Boogey Man. You'd never know, because he had a stocking over his head the whole time, didn't he?
Yeah.
They wrote the script at my parents' house, and so I think some of the characters are named after my parents, Helen and Ernest. And, it's slightly bizarre. I mean, and I, it's a pretty bad movie, I think, but fun on a certain level. And I was in Berlin. I used to go to the Berlin Film Festival every year, and I taught a master's course in producing film and television, and I would take my students so they would get the experience of what it was like. And one of my students said, "Oh my God, I just saw the worst horror film I've ever seen," and the director was talking, and I said, "It wasn't Ulli Lommel, was it?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Didn't I tell you when about the worst possible horror film ever made? That was the one that I worked on."
I'm sure you hear this a lot. Your feet are amazing.
Oh no! Please, no! I did have a stalker for a while who was obsessed with my feet.
I'm so sorry.
And there's
Gillian.
a website. There's a website that apparently my feet are on.
Yeah, it's probably Wiki Feet or something. Yeah, I'm familiar with that site.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I gotta tell you, sometimes I'll be on there and I will see like personal pictures of my celebrity friends' feet on there, like I've seen on Instagram, and I'm like, dude, that is so classless. Don't do that. You know what I mean?
Well, but you have been on it. That's the question.
Well, they got movie stills, and red carpet and stuff, but come on, don't use the personal stuff. That's just so rude.
Yeah, well, so I don't know. I did have some guy who was trying to track me down for years. Mm-hmm. It was bizarre. Anyway, but look, it's really crucial when you're learning about filmmaking, and it's not accessible the way it is now. You can get an iPhone and shoot a film, and it looks pretty good. But then you needed big cameras and lots of lights. To shoot a film. And so the only way that you could get an opportunity was to hook up with all these crazy fly-by-night people who had weird money from dentists in the Midwest and stuff like that.
I know, it's so crazy. Did they ask you to be part of the sequel?
Oh no, are you kidding? No way. No. No, I can't remember if Suki was in the sequel. Was she Suki? I can't remember.
I think so. I only saw that one one time, and I can't remember it.
I think their marriage pretty much was on over by then, but she might have done it only also because I think she wanted to recoup some money herself, because of course she had invested in it, and that's at the family.
Speaking of sequels, were you in Billy Jack Goes to Washington?
I worked on it.
Uh-huh.
I did a dark kind of the making of Billy Jack Goes to Washington, which has never been seen because I don't know what happened. I do not know what happened to that. But I worked for Tom Laughlin. That was my first job in Hollywood. So I met him in New York. I don't know if people even know who Tom Laughlin is anymore, but he was the hottest thing on the planet at that particular moment in time, because he had figured out this whole concept of four-walling, which, for those of you who don't know out there, four-walling is when you take over a cinema, you pay the cinema owner for the use of the cinema. It's like a rental agreement, and then you take the tickets. So obviously that's not what is traditionally done in the cinema. And so he four-walled his movies, and he made a fortune. And he had more money than God. He lived in a house that was called Tara in Brentwood that had belonged to Pat O'Brien. And when I arrived, so I met him in I had a brief career as a model, which helped finance my my education. And I went up for an audition, and it was with Billy Jack. It was with Tom Laughlin. And he said, "What have you been doing?" I said, "I've been trying to finish a documentary film." And he said, "Oh, you're filming?" He said, "Oh, I need people like you." So he hired me. And I went out to Hollywood, and when I arrived, he was in this insane house that had the big gates, and he had a little golf course, a miniature golf course around his house in the garden. And when I arrived, he was playing the inner game of tennis with Tim Galway. It was so Evelyn Waugh. It was hard to believe. I mean, I remember writing to my friends and saying, "You're actually, I feel like I've entered an Evelyn Waugh novel." And anyway, that was great. It was a great start, and I worked for him. I was his assistant, and he was finishing up The Master Gunfighter when I arrived, and then he was developing Billy Jack Goes to Washington, and Frank Capra was producing it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Which was quite surreal.
Yeah.
But it was a great cast. It wasn't a very good movie. I mean, this is the problem with people like him, and God rest his soul. I mean, he was somebody who made these very successful sort of genre films, and then they move into a slightly more mainstream, and nobody's sitting there, and having a conversation with them about the scripts, and certainly they don't listen to their clever assistants from the East Coast. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it, in the end, it wasn't a great cast. It was a sort of interesting concept, but it didn't work really, did it? Anyway, but he had more money than God, and it was incredible to be his assistant, because I would sit in all the meetings, and there he was having a meeting with Jane Fonda, he was having a meeting with Warren Beatty, he was having it was everyone was meeting with him because he had the dough.
Yeah.
And this forewalling technique.
I gotta tell you, when I was looking at your resume, my eyes lit up when I saw that you worked on Pumping Iron.
Yeah. That was probably my first gig, actually.
Yeah, my dad was a weightlifter in his early years, and it was on all the time. He was watching it. Yeah, he had all the Joe Weider books and everything. Like I have like a real fondness in my heart for that period of my dad's life when he was like into all of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a whole series of, Arnold Schwarzenegger gave me a series of books that he did called Arnold Strong, and there were those little pamphlets. I wonder if that's what your dad had.
Probably.
Completely, just those photographs. It was kind of, for me, it was kind of kitsch. I mean, I couldn't believe it. But my friend Jerome Gary, who I'm oddly enough still working with, I lost touch with him for about 20 years and then reconnected with him about 10 years ago. He produced it. And they were on the West Coast, and they needed someone to be a kind of West Coast associate producer. And so I did. I ran around with them. It was really fun. And nobody knew anything about bodybuilding. It was quite unusual.
Yeah.
People didn't go to gyms. Nobody went to the gym. Can you imagine?
Yeah, it wasn't like in the mainstream. It was kind of an esoteric kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
but it was, I mean, I haven't looked at the film in, well, probably since we worked on it, but I don't know whether it holds up or not. But it is a seminal film. I think it is an important film because it really, really highlighted this world and in a fascinating way. And of course, a lot of people like Arnold became big stars because of it.
Oh yeah, Lou Ferrigno. This was just before he got the Incredible Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty groundbreaking for its time. But what was your job on the movie?
Oh, I was one of those sort of amorphous sort of jobs where you go check out a location, lock it down, then you take people out for dinner, then you held the director's hand. It was one of those, sort of, before you become a producer, you have to do a lot of jobs like that. You have to kind of be there for everybody. And then I was sort of doing a number of different things. It was fun. It was really fun.
Mm-hmm. So how do you meet Cheech Chong and come to work with them?
Oh, that was so much fun. I was quite early on producing music videos. Mm-hmm. And, and as you may know or remember, there was this new thing that was called MTV.
Yep.
And MTV was really cool, not the way it is now. I mean, who knows? I don't watch it anymore. But MTV had lots of music videos on it, whereas now it's more of television, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually money to spend on music videos. So I was doing big productions, and I'd also done a lot of commercials too. I mean, I made a living, a mixed bag, the way anybody who's a freelancer does. And a friend of mine said, I ran into this guy. I know him kind of well. His name is Cheech Marin, and he's from Cheech Chong. I went, oh wow, yeah. And he wants to do this film, and he wants to sort of take the piss out of the whole music industry and the whole video making part of it. And since you've made so many music videos, what he'd like to do is find a producer like you, and work with your team and with your editor, and and create this thing. So, I went to Cheech's wonderful Malibu house and met him, and completely fell in love with him, because he truly is one of the nicest people in the world. And I assume he still is. And we just, we really hit it off. And then the film was going to be him and Tommy making different genre music videos. This was songs.
Right.
And then there was this sort of mockumentary, which was sort of wrapped around it, which was all improvised.
Yeah.
And so it was quite a thing to produce, let me tell you, because you never knew what was going to happen, or you never knew what idea Cheech was going to come up with in the middle of the night. I mean, there was one moment where they said, okay, Gillian, we don't have any money for the film. You got to go out. This is an improvised scene. We don't have any more money, and you got to go out and you have to go and and the next thing I'm out hooking,
in broad daylight,
Sepulveda or someplace like that, broad daylight, wearing this ridiculous wig, So that was the kind of stuff that they got me to do with that. So this is an interesting story in the sense that I always say to young people, if you want to get the rights to a song, go for it, because you never know. And so Cheech had come up with these very funny lyrics for Born in East LA, which was based on Born in the USA by the divine Bruce Springsteen. Mm-hmm. And they were hysterical, Born in East LA. And so he couldn't get the right, for some reason, his people were talking to Bruce's people, but nothing was happening. And I had some friends that I'd made a music video with, who were going up to Martha's Vineyard to spend the weekend with Bruce.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, could you just show him these lyrics and tell him it's Cheech and what fun it would be? And they did. And he gave us the rights to do Born in East LA. And it was a huge hit, and then it became a movie. And of course it revived the song. So, it was smart for him too, because, there was another flash of people rushing out and buying Born in the USA for another generation. Yeah. So anyway, it was really wonderful to work with Cheech. Tommy less, he was kind of less involved. Cheech was very much the creative driver. He was the director of the project.
It shows. Tommy looks like he's just about over it, but it's still, hilariously done. I mean, I rented it over and over again as a kid, and I still have all the lines memorized. I love when Cheech is doing Hamlet, and he says, life rolls by like a fart in a wind dust storm, or Cheech explaining, why they say man a lot, because they get royalties, all that stuff,
It's so true. I mean, they were so clever, and most of that was improvised.
Yeah.
There's an amazing scene when we're in East LA, which is the East LA music video, and he's coming out of, drain pipes and, manhole covers and things like that. And then there's like a bride on the street. And basically, I'm running around because I could speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. And say to people, it's like Cheech Marin, and can we shoot in your bridal shop, and can we do, because he was just coming up with these ideas on the spot, and everybody said, yeah, that's so cool, we love it, and then we got everybody out on the street, marching down the street, so it was good.
Yeah, and I interviewed Tommy a few years ago. He's a talker, There's so much we could have talked about, but he was just all over the place, and it was wonderful. It was a definite highlight of my life. He's a huge hero of mine. But
he's wonderful.
Yeah, and that get out of my room music video. You guys are shooting. You guys are in the gym, and I actually know one of those girls working out, Darcy DeMoss. And
you do? That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, she's in her 60s and she still looks gorgeous. I'll tell you. And
wow.
Yeah, and the I'm not home right now video. It's very much like Rockwell. Somebody's watching me. He's paranoid that the IRS is after him.
I know, it was so funny. It was so, and the thing is that we worked with a very talented crew who were really spontaneous, and they also knew Cheech and Tommy well enough to know that they had to have lots of stuff on hand just in case, and it was great fun to work that way.
Yes, and you had the late great John Paragon playing a journalist hosting the whole thing.
Oh, he was brilliant.
Yeah. I know he's interviewing that guy who can barely speak English. It's so hilarious. It's really funny. Yeah.
And then what was her name? Queen of the Night.
Queen of the Elvira.
Elvira.
Yeah.
Oh, she was fabulous.
Yeah, Cassandra Peterson.
She's still around.
Oh yes, she has a really good memoir out. She came out of the closet too in it. And
she was stunning and very funny.
Yes. Oh, and also too, that Love is Strange video had Beverly D'Angelo and Mary Woronov. Yeah.
Well, Mary was a really good friend of mine. That was just. Again, hey, can you come on down? Yeah. Oh, and during the credits, Chong says, "Life is like one big black dildo. Some people get off on them." I remember this stuff. I'm a sponge. Yeah, that's so awesome. I can't believe you remember that. I can't remember any of it, but it was fun. And my husband, he has an IMBD credit, which he's very proud of because he was an extra playing a businessman in some scene. And then I think both of my babies were in it at the time. I had my kids were tiny. They were. I think they had little moments in it. Everybody you knew was involved. Yeah. What video did you do for Madonna? Well, Who's That Girl? Oh. Did we just say Who's That Girl? Yeah, that movie. And then we did the video for it, and so we did a video of that, and then I worked with Mary Lambert on the Diamonds Are Girl's Best Friend version, of that video, and I did a Eurythmics video, which is still one of my favorites. Which one? It's that Would I Lie to You? Oh yes, I love it. Which is great with Steve. Oh God, what's his name? Steve Banner. Steve Barron. Was it Steve Barron? Yeah, he plays a sort of love interest for Annie Lennox. They have a fight at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah. He calls her a bitch, and it gets bleeped out. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, he also, in some countries it does. Steve Barron directed the Dire Straits' "Money for Nothing" video. Oh, well, that's one of the great videos I think of all time. Of course, it still holds up. How about Tom Petty? Yeah, So if you ever heard of Jeff Stein, then he really talented director, and Jeff directed. I mean, he was really good friends with Tom Petty, and I think he directed quite a few of his videos, and I worked on two or three, and of course, don't ask me which ones, but they were all pretty good.
I mean, Don't Come Around Here No More, he did.
Yeah.
That was a masterpiece of a video.
That was a masterpiece. Yeah, absolutely. And then we did one that was like blue screen, green screen, red screen, yellow screen. I mean, it was very early technology. And one of my college mates, John Krause, it turned out to be the cinematographer that knew about all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And that was actually not Jeff Stein directing, but now I can't remember the name of which one it was. But I mean, it was really complex in terms of, the effects. And they were always very innovative. They were always willing to take a chance. Tom Petty, he was adventurous.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And then let's see, Idle Tears, Take Me Home. Like I wasn't too familiar with this one, but when I saw it on your resume, I just typed it in.
Which one was that?
The group was called Idle Tears, and the song was called Take Me Home.
Oh, I don't remember that. Are you sure that's me?
It said it on your resume, and then I just typed it in on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is a nice video.
I can't remember. Sorry.
It's okay.
That's what, as they say, if you can remember, then you weren't there.
But I used to see that Who's That Girl video a lot when I was a kid. And one thing that always boggled my mind about it was that Madonna dyed her hair black for it.
Yeah, did she?
Yeah, because she had
was that what the character in the movie was? Yeah.
Well, no, she had white blonde hair in the movie.
Oh, yeah. Well spotted. No, I don't remember that at all. Completely useless. Yeah.
Yeah. You co-executive produced Bond Girls Are Forever. Are you a huge Bond fan?
I am, but yeah, I mean, but my friend Mariam Dabo, who was really, the one who was behind that, and I was, it was her film really, and she of course was a Bond girl, and it was great fun to research it and work on it. And I ended up not being around too much for the filming because I think I had another project that had taken off. But that was very much Mariam's project, and it was and also the Barbara Broccoli who she and Michael Wilson run Eon. It was just a pleasure to work with. And they were so helpful, and they helped us get incredible clips, and it was a real pleasure to work with them. I mean, and I'm a kind of classicist. I mean, I always like Sean Connery, but once you get into the Bond movies, you kind of love them all in their own way, don't you?
Oh yes. What's your favorite?
My favorite probably. Oh God, Dr. No.
I love Dr. No. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
It was the first one, and I like that giant spider scene, in the bedroom. Those early ones with Connery are my favorite. As far as Roger Moore goes, I like the Spy Who Loved Me. I just interviewed Caroline Munro. She was wonderful.
Who is Caroline Munro? Sorry, I'm not familiar with who that is.
She's the sexy woman who's like the henchman's girl, and she's like up in that helicopter.
Fabulous.
You remember? Yeah.
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 Oh, fabulous! Oh, what fun!
Oh yeah, she was in the Golden Voyage of Sinbad and lots of movies. My favorite Timothy Dalton one is The Living Daylights, because that was the first one he did.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I was thinking the other day about what was it called? The Michelle Yeoh Pierce Brosnan one that Roger Spottiswoode directed.
Is that GoldenEye or Tomorrow Never Knows or Die Another Day?
Tomorrow Die Another Day, and and remember that incredible scene where he goes on a motorcycle on the top of a market. I think it was meant to be Vietnam or someplace. It was kind of incredible.
I didn't like the series after Pierce Brosnan because a lot of people blame Mike Myers because he did the Austin Powers movies. He took the humor out of Austin Powers and made it more serious, or out of James Bond and made it more serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it got a bit dark too, didn't it?
Yeah, they got really dark. I saw this last one in the theater that Daniel Craig did, and I was like, okay, where's the fun,
I know. Although I still loved it.
It was good.
But
it was good overall.
But I think that people, I think that what we all loved about those older ones is that there was this sort of 1 foot off the ground sense of humor, and you felt like you were a part of it, whereas when it starts to get older, when they get older and they get darker and they get more complex, I mean, in some ways, dramatically, it may be more interesting and sometimes visually more interesting, but I think we miss that wit. And that is British. It's very British too, isn't it? Yes, it is. Very British.
You worked as an executive at Paramount. Was that during the Eisner and Katzenberg days?
It was before that. It was very brief.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really an executive. I was an assistant to Anthony Page, the director.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing a movie. They were developing a movie and producing a movie, and I worked for him. And that was when Don Simpson came in and was running the studio.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, crazy Don Simpson. I've heard so many stories about him being a wild man. He collected guns, all that stuff.
Yeah, and he had, amazing, fast, scary cars. And he was pretty scary himself. I remember him kind of stomping into a meeting in his big old cowboy boots and terrorizing us all because the script wasn't, coming together terribly well. But then I know, then the film got canned. So it was my first lesson because I had written some notes on the script. And this is what I always say to my students: the first thing you have to do is keep your job. And I, of course, made the mistake of writing these sort of notes, which then Simpson read and said, "Okay, forget about this." I mean, I'm sure my notes weren't the most important thing in the world to closing down the picture. I think we probably already spent too much money, but I was out of a job, so that was my lesson. Keep your mouth shut. Anyway, but it was interesting to work. So I worked for Tom Offit, and he had Culver City Studios, so I got to work in that context, and I'd always admired Paramount and loved Paramount movies, and it was before, and also Paramount, of course, was very successful with television, as you remember.
Of course.
So it was exciting to be on a back lot. There's nothing more exciting for a film buff than to be on a back lot,
Oh yeah.
Go through that gate, Oh my God, I'm going through the gate. I'm going through the iconic gate.
Yeah. Did you deal with Robert Evans at all?
I knew him a little bit. I went to parties at his house and screenings, and he was a real charmer.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that documentary. The kid stays in the picture.
It's a great book, and it's a great documentary. I mean, and he, he was quite a character.
Mm-hmm.
Girlfriend of mine went out with him, so that's how I kind of got to know him.
Did you spend time on those Paramount Television sound stages, like when The Odd Couple was going on and stuff?
No, I wish I had. No, that must have been amazing.
Yeah, because
I was just working hard. Hey, I wasn't. I was just trying to make a living. So I didn't have time to spend on sets that I wasn't actually working on.
Yeah, because I've talked to people who worked on like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley, and they said those after parties, on Friday nights, they were just wild.
Oh, one of the things that I discovered was that on Friday nights you could screen movies in the Paramount screening room. So there was a bunch of old NYU people, John Davis and people like that, and there were a bunch of old NYU people that were, kicking around, and we would just watch a print of whatever movie we could conjure up out of the vaults, and that was our Friday nights. That was pretty special, actually.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. What made you want to move to England?
Well, truthfully, I didn't want my children to grow up in LA, and I just thought it was not a good place for children. Mm-hmm. And, they were just, it was superficial, and I didn't feel it was a good place to bring up kids. So we moved to England, and my husband's work brought him here, and then I was lucky because there was a sort of wave of international co-production, stuff going on, and because I was American and because I was also half British, I got a good job as the head of international co-productions, and it was a great start to and I didn't know anything about television because I'd only worked in film. Mm-hmm. And so the British film industry had pretty much, the whole gold crest had collapsed, and the film industry was pretty much in the dumps. So I was lucky. I got to work in television. I got to work for Yorkshire Television, which was one of the great ITV companies.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been there now?
I moved here in '89, but I moved back to the U.S. 2019 to help revive an old Art Deco cinema and turn it into a Cinematheque in Sag Harbor, New York. So I moved back to do that in 2019, and then COVID hit. So say like air. Yeah. But so I spend most of my time in the States now, but I spend a few months of the year in England because so many of our friends are here.
Yeah,
and much of my career, really. I mean, I would say, most of my career has really been here, and it was wonderful to come here because you could go and you could pitch an idea and find a great writer, and the next day you were developing it. So it was fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. At least you have a peace of mind, living in England.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a very creative environment, and the everybody because don't forget HBO copied the BBC, and Channel 4 was created to do this for independent filmmakers, and so there's a lot of talent, and not to mention, of course, as we all know, that acting talent is just stupendous. So it's a great place to work. I mean, there's not the kind of money that we have in America, but it's actually, when I came here, there was a lot of more kind of mobility in terms of, getting things done and making things happen. And I got a lot of things done. I had a lot of fun. I did kind of all kinds of genre. I did thrillers. I did kids things because I had kids. So then my kids wanted me to make TV shows. So then I made kids TV shows, and it was really fun, and they were successful. So can't complain.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And how often do you teach workshops?
Well, quite often I do. I mean, I like to work with, writers. I still develop projects and produce things. So during lockdown, I made an animation film called Footsteps on the Wind, where Sting gave us this beautiful song to do, and it was about child migration. So I'm very politically motivated in terms of the things that I'm interested in doing now. And, I like to do workshops with young people. I like to workshops with people who are trying to figure out, what's their next move, and, they're going to be, are they going to be a screenwriter or a playwright, So I'd love to do that. And I still do a little bit of teaching, which is always fun.
Yeah, do you get a satisfaction teaching that you don't get when you're producing?
Yeah, I think you do. I mean, I think it's not unsimilar in the sense that, you're trying to get the best out of people. Your job as a producer is to motivate and get the best out of people and creative talent, and to put the best talent together. And in some ways, when you're, teaching a production class, that's what you're doing. You're trying to get young people to do their best work, to think deep, to go deep, and then also to work with talent. So it's not unsimilar.
Absolutely. And so many people I talk to teach now. It's pretty amazing. It's so many people want to give back now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's people say give back. I don't know about giving back. I think it's a selfish thing to do too, because actually you get to be the center of attention. But what's really satisfying is when your students do well. And then you go, yeah, I spotted that talent, and look how well they're doing, and it's really nice. So I think also it stimulates you as a creative person. They challenge you. Young people challenge you, so it's great.
Do you have any upcoming projects?
Yeah, I have a project that, funnily saying, I was working with Jerome Gary again, who did Pumping Iron. It's a 8-part series based on the Tunisian Spring, which, politically is all but crazy at the moment in Tunisia. So, who knows if that'll ever get made, but hopefully will. It's a very, very good project, really interesting, and it's about young people and revolution. And then I'm working on a bunch of other projects too. So I haven't stopped. I find that I'm now more interested in doing stuff that is sort of an activist based, so I'm really interested in climate change and what's going on, and hope to work on some projects around that. But we'll see. It's always dangerous to talk about things that are in flux, isn't it?
It is. It's always dangerous to talk about it. We got the strike going on. We got, climate change. We got so much going on in the world right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. But, and the thing is that the way that things get made is so different, and it's so difficult. It is not easy to get stuff made. So anybody who gets anything made, who makes a film, who makes a short, who makes a documentary, whatever it is, hats off to them.
Absolutely. So real quick, let's play my secret silly game. This is a series of silly slumber party questions. No win or lose, it's just pure fun. And how the game works is I ask you the question, you answer it, and then you ask me that exact same question and I answer it. And feel free to comment on the answers because they might be funny.
Okay.
Gillian, are you ticklish?
I am not ticklish. Are you ticklish?
Oh, yes. If you tickle me without warning, I might hit you in the groin. Is your belly button an innie or an outie?
I think my belly button is an innie. Yes, of course it's an innie. What is yours?
It is also an innie. What color are your toenails painted?
My toenails are painted a beautiful color of sort of deep bluey green. What color are yours?
They are light lavender purple.
Woo, that sounds good.
Yeah, they look really pretty. What would you say?
So no wonder you go on that foot website. Now I got you.
Oh, yes. I like to look at the comparisons, too, What would you say is your best personality trait?
God, that's a horrible question. My best personality trait?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like to have fun and, be with people and, create a warm, fun environment. So maybe that's one of the things that I do.
That is wonderful.
I don't know. What about you?
Being that I'm a Gemini, I have empathy and I have no filter. It's a balance.
Yeah, very good.
And then my favorite question, is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
smell that makes me gag is the smell of like really, really cheesy socks and feet.
Yes. That
What about you?
that is mine. Yeah, and also farts.
Yeah. Well, it depends, right? Some farts are fine, like baby farts are delightful, but oh,
Yeah.
when you're in the elevator, right?
Yeah. Oh God, that's the worst. So your podcast, Binge or Bomb, you release it weekly, right?
Well, yeah, we're trying. I mean, over the summer, we get a bit relaxed with it because we're sort of spread all over the place. But the idea is, yeah, we're trying to do it pretty regularly. And then we're going to start having guests in the autumn.
Nice.
It's just, just friends in the industry, and also talk to people about what they're watching too. It doesn't have to be famous people necessarily. It's also interesting to hear about what people are really into and what they're watching. What are you watching? Watching anything good?
Nothing really new. I mean, occasionally something on Netflix will pique my interest. Like I've seen documentaries. I saw a documentary about that woman who was running a orgasmic meditation cult in the Bay Area, of all places, where I was from.
Wow.
I was like, wow, I'm surprised I didn't know about it then. I probably would have participated. and yeah, I've seen stuff like that, and I've seen stuff here and there and stuff. But I always stick to the classics. I'm a classic film guy.
Yeah, of course you are, and that's what's so refreshing, isn't it?
Absolutely,
we love that.
Absolutely. Well, Gillian, this has been such an honor, and I'm so glad.
Well, nothing to speak.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you're still out there working and having all these projects being done, all these passion projects. And I hope you have a great summer over there in the UK, and just be safe.
Yeah, you too. You take care. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, there you have it. Gillian Gordon. Oh my God, she is such a gem. What a sweetheart of a gem. I'm so glad that we talked today, and I'm so glad that she was, happy that, I was such a fan of her work. I bet that whole section about Cheech Chong's Get Out of My Room just blew her mind. How much I'm a fan of that. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.